Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Starring Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, Ela Fisher, Justice Smith, Dominic Sessa, Ariana Greenblatt, Lizzie Kaplan, I'll talk about her, Rosamund Pike, and Morgan Freeman, directed by Ruben Fleischer. Now, I do remember, well, not remember, but I do want to say I have seen this movie twice. And I'm kind of glad I did because the first time I was confused about where the hell everything was going. So, will it be the same thing as the second viewing? Let's get into it. We open somewhere in Bushwick, New York, with the four horsemen J. Daniel Atlas, returned by Jesse Eisenberg, Mary McKinney, or Merritt McKinney, excuse me, returned by Woody Harrelson, Jack Wilder, returned by Dave Franco, and Henley Reeves Scanlon, now married with kids, as we'll learn later in the film, returned by Ela Fisher, come on stage after 10 years as the holograms being portrayed by Bosco, played by Dominic Sessa, whom I reviewed before in The Holdovers 2 years back. Charlie, played by Justice Smith from Detective Pikachu in a couple of the Jurassic Worlds, and June, played by Ariana Greenblatt from Barbie, as they steal a spoiled rich guy's phone, and as well as his mother, who is the rich man, Brett Finnegan. He's going to say they're a fake and frame Brett for all the wrong he did as the horseman or the young horsemen, let's call them, which is something I'm going to, anyways, as they escape because the cops arrive and get Brett arrested for all the wrong he's been accused of, and we see the real Daniel watching the show as the young horsemen go back home. And this opening sequence wasn't great, but when we get to different locations in the world, is when I'm starting to get a headache from the movie. The young horsemen get home and find Daniel, not a hologram, but real, is actually there, and as he approaches them to recruit the young horseman into stealing a hearted diamond from Veronica Vanderberg, played by Rosamund Pike. And we move on to Veronica in Limpopo, I think is how I say it, South Africa, making a deal with her corporate employees like William as she puts a diamond in William's mouth, which is somewhat menacing, but not too menacing in my opinion. And so far, I don't like any of the characters, as they come off just as bad as the second movie, and this villainess is preposterous. Meanwhile, the audience learns Charlie is an orphan, and when we move on to Veronica in the next scene, I get the impression she's a family member of Charlie's, as the twist felt too obvious, as this movie can be predictable. And we move on to Belgium, with Daniel and the young horseman getting prepared to rob the heart diamond hidden in a secret vault in the Arabian desert. As this plot is pretentious, but not as pretentious as the second movie, when Veronica gets ready and asks for Mark Schreiber, until she gets a call from a mysterious voice, whom I'm led to believe is Charlie, and I don't like the way this mysterious voice says its lines, as it sounds like Javier Bardem. And we move on to Bosco and Charlie meeting with Mark and giving him a ride to his hotel. And we move on to the party led by Veronica as she first meets Daniel while in the middle of a conversation about Marie Antoinette, and have a brief chat about illusion. And she's led to believe he's the voice, but he says she's mistaken. And we get Bosco, Mark, Charlie as the lighting guy, as June is the makeup girl, and they successfully get the hard diamond. And they how do they pull it off? I'll explain. They make Veronica take out the diamond while June attempts to steal the diamond, and they switch the diamond as it's a control set by Charlie. And the young horsemen disguise themselves as party guests. And I'll continue the how in the next segment, but so far I saw it coming from like a mile away, thanks to the trailer, of course. Bosco acts crazy and pushes the ice diamond on the ground, and Daniel proves on how he got the diamond, and they switched off the diamond to something crushable and almost attacks the young horsemen until Jack arrives and saves their asses, along with Henley and the most importantly, Merritt. And he pulls off the magic trick from the first movie where they say BS and they become violinists except for one, and Merritt punched one guard and get away on a boat as nobody sees them, as they are led to believe escaped from a helicopter. And Veronica, with the authorities learning it was swapped as the real Mark, arrives and misses everything while we recap on what happened to them. In between Lula moving to Paris, France, as well as we also learn Dylan Shrike has been caught and put in prison. And this isn't as clever as the first movie, in my opinion. It's a pale imitation of the first two movies. I failed to bring up each member of the Horsemen got a card that has a map in the back to go somewhere in France to get to a building. While they get to the door, that's like a jigsaw puzzle. And Jack tries to open the door, but June gets it open, and it's a place filled with magic tricks as they eventually find Thaddeus Bradley, returned by Morgan Freeman in a brief role, with tricks up his sleeve, and approaches the horseman as well as the young horseman while Veronica is upset she lost her diamond to magicians. As she gets a call from the mysterious voice, who is also upset as one of the guards learning they're in France and calls a manhunt on the horseman, and everywhere they went, I had a headache from this movie. The horsemen split up, looking around for things, for clues, as they go to one magic room after another, and they eventually get to a room while pulling off one magic trick after another. And after a while, I was like, enough with that. I mean, my God, it goes on for at least 2 minutes, and this scene was so annoying, as this whole movie was so freaking annoying. And I got tired after a while, and they get some papers and out of a painting, which will be a part of the twist later in the movie, and we learned Veronica's dad was involved with something with the Nazis back in World War II, until the French authorities arrive and the horsemen split up to escape. Most of them do, except for Merritt, Jack, and June, while Thaddeus almost gets captured, but he escapes and he gets shot and unfortunately dies in front of Daniel, Henley, and Bosco, and Charlie, and he advises to stop Veronica and how much they need each other. And I knew the death of Thaddeus was coming, as he was only in one scene in that trailer. But I wish I figured out a way to I wish he figured out a way to resurrect himself. And the editing in this scene was, as well as the movie, was pretty choppy. Well, I couldn't follow what the hell was going on at this point. Bosco's first instincts, well, the authorities are looking for them to get June out of jail, but the horsemen call Charlie come up with an idea to getting them out of, while Veronica talks with Merritt about her father, was as a magician back in World War II, pulls off a trick she used to love as a kid, and Merritt reads Veronica's past about how her father had sexual intercourse with the housekeeper a long time ago, until she walks out as Merritt is right about her plot. And we move on to an older lady being arrested for drinking in public and is sent to a cell and pretends to cut her arm. And where have I seen this before? And who is this lady under the old lady makeup? Lula, returned by Lizzie Kaplan. And why the hell is she back in this movie? I said this last time. She was an unnecessary character in the second movie, and she's even more worthless here than in the second movie. Lula escapes with Jack and while Merrick gets June out of jail, and he gets once again captured. And June meets up with Jack and Lula, and they get them to the other horsemen hiding from. And we learn Henley and Lula know each other, and Charlie learns Veronica is having a launch party to release a race car. As we get to the backstory of Charlie, as he hated the world. And at this point, I just don't care, as I don't care for this movie. While the horsemen take an airplane to the UAE to create a show to expose Veronica, as they go to a party to trade for the heart diamond and Merritt's life. And they get to Veronica's party for the race car and make the trade. And what happens next, I'll explain in a second. But the backstory to Charlie was unnecessary, as I could care less about the character because like I said, I don't like the characters and the acting was poor. While Charlie and Bosco take photos of the interior of the car and steal the car with June watching, Veronica puts the 5 horsemen in a glass that's a trap where sand is about to kill them, and eventually they break a pipe, and almost gets drowned. But remember, in the first movie, where Headley can breathe underwater for 8 minutes, she does it again by breaking the glass with a ring and saves everybody's lives. Is this what good Ela Fisher is for this series? I'm going to guess it is, as this might be her best talent, which is breathing underwater for around 8 minutes. And Bosco is captured by the authorities as he escapes, which felt convenient, as this movie must have been made for convenience. Because I can't believe this movie exists after 12 years after the original, while this is supposed to take place 10 years after the first movie? Give me a break. Veronica gets to the vault and meets the mysterious voice man as she grabs the gun from the guard, which is Bosco, and it turns out it's Charlie who's the voice, and I'm having a headache as he is supposed to be the bad guy, which is stupid. With Veronica shooting Charlie as she believes he's dead, but he's not, and shows the world framing Veronica as Charlie's sister, and exposes her with June, Bosco, Danielle, Merritt, Jack, and Henley, and get Veronica arrested as they pull off the twist with it being completely cliche. And they also explain how they pulled it off by involving the Horsemen by giving them cards to the map, and they introduce themselves as the Horsemen, and they take their bows and go back to New York and grab themselves a drink with Jack and Lula becoming a couple again and get a delivery message from Dylan returned by Mark Ruffalo telling the Horsemen to work together as a part of the Eye. And this climax felt convenient in a terrible way, but how convenient was this movie? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 3.8 out of 10. This is as bad as I feared, as I don't like any of the characters in this movie, as they come off just as bad as the second movie. And this villain, as Rosamund Pike plays, is preposterous, as she's pulled off better villains in other movies than here, like Die Another Day from James Bond and Gone Girl from David Fincher, for example. So she deserves better than this. And when this movie goes from place to place all over the world, I just had a headache at this point. And same goes with the action scenes, that I just gave up on the twist, and I just don't care for the movie. The twists were too obvious. This movie can be predictable, and the plot was pretentious, but not as pretentious in the second movie. And this isn't as clever as the first movie, as it's a pale imitation of the first two movies, in my opinion. And one scene made me a little tired of the movie. Of the movies, this movie got tired after a while, and this same and this and at the same time annoyed the crap out of me. And the editing in this whole movie was choppy, while I couldn't follow what the hell was going on in the movie. And remind me, why the hell is Lizzie Kaplan back in this series? As she was an unnecessary character in the last movie, and here she's even more worthless here than ever. And this is a non-recommendation for the movie, as Charlie's backstory was unnecessary, as I could care less for the character, because like I said, I don't like the characters, as their acting is poor. And this must have been made for convenience sakes, and I can't believe this movie exists 12 years after the first movie, despite this is supposed to take place 10 years after the original. And at the end of the day, this is a stupid movie with a terrible yet convenient climax, as I felt it. It wasn't fun for me. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this Now You See Me retrospective. And until we ever get a fourth part, chances are we might. Now you see me, now you don't.